Hello beer tubers and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of hoppets. Today going through some more beers for the festive / dark winter times, some seasonal releases. And these are some cellar beers that I had in the cellar, and actually the final beers I brought from my trip to Franconia a year ago. So these were not purposely cellared. I was meaning to review them for Christmas last year around that time, just never got around to it. And since they were winter seasonals, then all of a sudden spring happened and whatnot. It's like, yeah, we'll just save them for next year. I think it'll be okay because they're strong beers, they're bocks. So I didn't want to age these too long because sometimes there's also a thing of too much aging. Usually most of these strong beers a year or so will be okay, maybe two, whatever, but you don't want to do that extreme extended aging often unless you have really good conditions for aging, because a lot of people end up making beers that are great. Speaking of, recently I saw a post about how long to age Golden Carolus Cuvée Van de Kaiser, and someone said he preferred it when the vintage was 18 years old. It's like, that must be heavily oxidized and having all kind of soy saucy weird flavors and whatnot. I'm not sure if that would be for me, but tweets there, and I remember there's a point in time where a lot of people just also swore with aging. Like some people say, Limfjordsporter, for example, from Denmark, is great, but give it 10 years and it's the best beer in the world. It's like, not necessarily. But yeah, let's see how these are. So we're checking out two bocks from the cellar. We're checking out one I've reviewed in the past, just as a older vintage from the Reh Privatbrauerei Reh in Lohndorf, which is close to Bamberg in Franconia. And then from Weiherer in Franconia as well, we got a beer. So from the Privatbrauerei Reh, it's their dunkle Reh-Bock with a super awesome kitsch Christmas label with a deer on it, a Reh. I love that. It looks awesome. So this is like these kitsch labels, they should never change. I love that they look this way from some of these old breweries. So this is a dark bock, dunkle Bock, with just says barley malts, roasted malt, hops, and yeast and water, 7.1%. And Rolator is a Doppelbock by Weiherer that I picked up down in Franconia just because it was called Rolator. I thought that was a bit funny. It's 8.8%, it's really strong, and as you can see in the color, it's a paler Doppelbock. Let's just see here quickly because there's some info. Ha! Okay, this is so stupid. I shouldn't have saved this. Let's see how this is. We might not rate this. I did not know that. I thought when it says Doppelbock, I was thinking this is just going to be another bock, but actually I should have read on the back here. It says that this is a Doppelbock that's brewed extra hoppy as a celebration of the 50th birthday of Roland Kundmüller. So yeah, this is a hoppy Doppelbock that I aged in a cellar for a year. Okay, well, let's just see how it turns out. Beer experiment time. We're going to start out with a dark bock though, because it's the lowest in ABV, and see how that is. So the Reh-Bock. I scored this lower back in the day. In general, I was harsh on lagers compared to how I am now because I really love them. A lot of people have the idea that you can't score certain styles high, which I think is bollocks. If it's great in its style, it should get the grade it deserves. It shouldn't, and of course you also have to like it yourself, but I'm starting to like a lot of these things so much more than a lot of modern craft beer, although I also like modern craft beer. But let's check out this one. So it pours a nice, really chestnutty color, really crystal clear, very high carbonation when I poured it out, looking great in the glass. Tannhell, let's check out the aroma on the Reh-Bock. Very Munich malty, but also there's some tartness to it. Like a dark fruity tartness. Yeah, this is very simple bock, really. It's not as intense and layered as some of the bocks I had in recent times. I recently did the bock from that was also a year old from Hummel was much more enticing than this, but it has some of those kind of brown bready notes and whatnot. A bit of honey, slight oxidative character. There's a hint of porty notes. Let's try it. Cheers. Much nicer on the palate. Really sessionable, really clean. Very rich breadiness. Like, the aroma indicated a beer that would be a bit more, falling flat on the palate. And it certainly doesn't. It's very good. The mouthfeel is quite rich. This is not deteriorated in the cellar, although it's past its expiration date now. This is drinking fine. The oxidative character on it is super light. It's a super, super light, slightly sherry, maybe more than port thing. Was really light. Otherwise, it's nutty, brown bready, a little bit of almost like a pumpernickel thing. A decent level of peppery hops too. It's actually a little bit hoppy. It's a decent buck. It's nothing like amazing. It's not the best like dark buck I've had, but it's also not bad. It's pretty good. I like it. So let's try and move on to Rolator. This is so stupid. Why did I not read on the label of this bottle? Hoppy buck. You can see it looks like Heller buck, just maybe an ounce darker. It's also unfiltered. It's just naturtrüb. So there's a lot of sediment in the bottom, which we're not going to pour in because this beer has been in the cellar for such a long time. Although it's been kept cool, I mean, it looks all right. It looks like, yeah, a slightly darker color than some, you know, my box. Actually, no, it's actually very much the same color as a lot of my box. And if you think of another quite strong beer, the Weihnachtsbock from Zentner, that's also kind of this color, maybe just a shade darker. It's got a white head, this one. Let's check out the aroma after a year in the bottle. Yeah, you can smell this was really hoppy. I'm impressed though. It doesn't smell like super heavily oxidized or skunky or not even like diacetyl-like or anything. It's just like a little bit of robust breadiness, and then there's something that reminds me of Hallertau Mittelfoy hops. Like a grassy fruitiness. It smells really hoppy. Let's try it. Cheers. Ooh, big on sweetness. I should have drunk this much, much sooner. It's really rich on on both malt and hops. Age didn't do it too well, but it's also not fallen off. It's just like the hops are getting a bit weird in it. Slightly oxidized, slightly tea leafy, yeah. It almost like, you can feel it's been really hoppy. Almost drinks like when you drink an IPA that's out of date in some extent, just in terms of the hop character. Dare I say it's slightly syrupy. It's like a syrupy sweet malt. It almost reminds me of drinking Avery the Kaiser mixed with Maharaja. Or maybe not the Maharaja at all. Actually just the Kaiser, because that was something along those lines. Or just like old Krampus from Southern Tiers, or like some of these old school American breweries that did like Imperial Pilsner type beers for the holiday season or just in general that were really strong and really hoppy. It reminds me of those. It actually reminds me a lot of like really old money stuff that I used to be able to get back in the day from the States. Or like a hoppy Sammy Klaus almost. It has so much like sweet, almost caramelly maltiness. Sweet, rich, bready maltiness. And then there's like a touch of floral notes, a very nice bitterness that cuts through everything. Yeah, it went from I'm not really enjoying this too much to what? It's actually still all right. And it's not completely fallen apart. It's actually okay. But this drinks like a beer that would have been better to drink when it was really fresh. Because you can taste that this has been really hoppy and more distinct. Like right now I'm getting some grassy notes, some citrus notes, a lot of pepper and spice and bitterness. But on the nose, there was something where it's like, oh, this is bright, intense Mittelfoy. But you can't decipher what the hops are really now because things are muted. I'm just not a big fan of the syrupiness about it. It's got some syrupy notes. That reminds me a little bit as well of Danish strong beers, like Årgangsøl from Vibro or Carlsberg Master Brew, stuff like that. And I'm sure you wouldn't have noticed that when this was really hoppy. But it's my fault because I aged them too long. Because I think this is something they brew in autumn. Rolator, maybe it's, yeah, something like that. And then this is for the winter time. So this is actually the oldest of the two, I think. But in terms of a grade, Reh-Bock, maybe like an 85 or 84, something like that, mid 80s. It's a pretty good dark bock. It's not the best. It lacks a little bit of layer and complexity. It tastes a little like heavy Munich malty when with some of these like darker fruity notes and whatnot. Like if you just compare to the recent bock I had that was dark from the fine folks at Hummel, that was more interesting than this. The Weiherer, on the other hand, I'm not sure if I really should rate this because it's just past its prime, I think, because it was a hoppy beer. Like drinking it right now, it's not super fun. It's just a little bit of too much of a syrupy, bitter, weird thing. Like this it doesn't taste like off or anything. It just tastes like it should have been drunk fresher, where the hops were more intense in your face. I would say I recommend getting it and trying it fresh, and then don't drink aged bottles of it. Although there's probably going to be some people who like this aged. So yeah, that does it for this examination of vintage bocks from the cellar. Der dunkle Reh-Bock and Rolator. If you guys had either of these, let me know your thoughts on them. Thanks a ton to myself for the beers, because I bought them in Bamberg at the Aquatron. Sometimes I'm just used to saying that because we got a lot of beer sent. So yeah, thanks to me. And as always, remember to comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram, give the video a thumbs up, enjoy it, and ring the bell for future notifications about videos. Happy holidays. Hope you're having a good time. And I'm going to say cheers and see you guys in another beer review.